It's the final round of the presidential battle in France, and the war of words between the top two contenders is intensifying by the day. As Emmanuel Macron tries to gather more support by softening his domestic policies, the far-right challenger Marine Le Pen has proposed to change the country's foreign policy, quite drastically at that. The presidential front-runner, Marine Le Pen, has sent shockwaves through Europe and across the Atlantic with her latest comments on Russia and the NATO. In a press conference held in Paris, the challenger has declared that France will leave the military command of NATO if she wins the French presidency. She also went ahead to suggest a strategic reconciliation between NATO and Russia once the war ends. Listen in first to what she said.
France can be useful in the resolution of the world's great disorders, if and only if it is independent. This is one of the reasons that will make me leave the integrated command of NATO. As soon as the Russian-Ukrainian war is over and has been settled by a peace treaty, I will speak out in favor of implementing a strategic rapprochement between NATO and Russia, as was once envisaged.
And right after the statement at the Paris news conference, a protester interrupted Le Pen with snide questions about none other than Vladimir Putin. The protester even brandished a picture of her 2017 encounter with Putin, which was cut out in the shape of a heart. He was then dragged out of the conference room by the security guard.
Bonjour, président. Spécial J'ai une question de la part de Vladimir Poutine. Il se demande pourquoi vous lui répondez plus. Vous lui manquez. Il se demande pourquoi vous lui répondez plus. Vous lui manquez. Il veut savoir si...
Let's get in further perspectives now. With us on the broadcast is adjunct senior fellow of RAND global think tank, William Courtney, with us from Washington, D.C. Thanks very much for being here with us. Declaring that France will leave the military command of NATO, Marine Le Pen making those comments at a very crucial time. She says if she wins the presidency, that will be the move that she takes. What do you make of these remarks coming in from the leader, and why do you think she's making these remarks at this time? Would they help her electoral prospects, according to you?
Well, after France moved out of the NATO military command and expelled NATO headquarters in 1966, France was out of the integrated military structure of NATO for decades and only came back in recent years. So this is a position that has some history in French-NATO relations. But coming after the war in Ukraine is kind of an unusual stance. For example, elsewhere, such as Sweden and Finland, we see countries more eager to join NATO now, partly as a result of Russia's war.
What about her suggestion of a strategic reconciliation between NATO and Russia once the war ends? Is that even realistically possible?
So over the decades, France has often seen itself as a strategic intermediary between the West and Russia. Usually it has not amounted to a significant role. President Macron also talked about that in recent years, but again, not much happened. And after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the second invasion, now President Macron has kind of dropped the idea. Marine Le Pen would not be seen by the West as a credible intermediary with Moscow, and so she really wouldn't be able to bring others along.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.